So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape. I'm super excited about today's guest. And the reason why I'm excited is because I believe, I don't even know if she knows this, but I believe you represent something that I call, which is the new, right? And so Breanna is in grad school on her way to becoming a therapist. She's also a single parent, and she's also a dancer. So it's just an interesting blueprint. And I think the combination of all three is what makes your story interesting, because it's very different than, our parents' stories. And also, as a therapist, I love the fact that you're someone who isn't just like, who didn't go down the traditional path, right? Anyway, she is running groups for single parents, which I think is very needed. And she's doing that in my private community. And this is her first interview on Single on Purpose, the podcast. Breanna, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. And I did not know that you thought that about me. So thank you.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of people's stories. I think they're underestimated. When we leave this planet, it's our stories that are good. I mean, that we're artists, right? And I think our brush strokes are how we live our lives, right? And so I'm always fascinated by people's stories.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm really excited to share, honestly.
Yeah. Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with, because you have so many layers of your story. Do you want to start with upbringing, where you were raised and how that was? Where do you want to start? You could pull a Quentin Tarantino and you could start, anywhere, and you could be nonlinear too if you want.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with that because I think obviously, like everyone, my upbringing has a lot to do with my story. Sure. I was raised super religious by parents who were together, but my dad was traveling for work 300 days out of the year on average. So really, in a way, raised by what felt like a single mother myself in a very religious household. I fully bought into it, was very religious myself for a lot of my life until I graduated and went to community college for the first time and kind of discovered other people who had different viewpoints and mindsets and got a little bit out of the church. Started living on my own at about 17 or 18 and, worked a lot of like service industry jobs, bartending, movie theaters, stuff like that.
Wait, what was your relationship? So dad wasn't around. I know we live in a fatherless nation because working in a nonprofit for 5 years, helping teenage addicts, that was always the common thread. So dad wasn't around emotionally, or he wasn't around physically. How do you think that impacted you, or are you still on that journey of discovering?
Oh my God. I actually definitely feel like I've done a whole lot of personal work on how that affected me. Mm-hmm. The whole term daddy issues, especially with being a dancer, is something that like gets brought up a lot or is thought about a lot. But
wait, real quick, what kind of dancer are you, just to get that out of the way so people know, because there's so many types of dancers.
Right. Well, you know what? Let's just say what it is. I'm a stripper. Yes. I know that some people like to use the term dancer, and I do, like, just initially, just because I think people are more comfortable with that, but I'm a stripper at a nightclub. So,
you know what? Can I just say something? I prefer stripper. You know why? Because I want to empower that. And I think now's the time, because I think there's been a lot of judgment with stripping, with anything in, erotica, sex work, anything like that. And So yeah, like let's empower it. You're like, if you want to call yourself what you want. So if you want to use the word stripper, let's do it. You know?
Absolutely. No, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And like taking that word back, like, is so important. But yeah,
Yeah.
so as a stripper, everyone assumes that you have daddy issues. And I
Yeah.
guess actually having them is a little bit like, okay, I hate that cliche, but fair enough. Um, yeah, it's definitely impacted my expectations in partners and my view on fathers in general. Like you said, we live in a fatherless nation. And it's
Let me ask
just
you
like,
this. So with dad missing, do you find yourself um, looking for that father figure, or are you more like, fuck man, they leave? Like, what's the underlining belief you think that subconsciously you pull from?
absolutely leaning more towards the fuck men. And it's not even
Mm.
just like my experience with my dad. That's just the foundation. But I also I was single and dating in Los Angeles for like 6 or 7 years. And
Mm-hmm.
that'll just do a number on anyone. Like dating
Oh
in
yeah.
Los Angeles, I feel like can be such a hard scene and you just see a lot of shit. And it's just like that really solidified the whole fuck men thing for me. But what's funny
So,
is
what was your this whole podcast is called Single on Purpose. So what was your experience like? Because there are people that don't, obviously, listening to this, not living in LA, they don't want to know what it's like. So how did dating in LA get you to the bumper sticker fuck man?
oh God, I mean, how much time do we have? Like,
I mean, I'm assuming what, just like ghosting and what are LA men like?
I don't know if it's, and this is just my experience, and
Yeah,
everyone,
yeah.
I'm a firm believer that like whatever your circle is and whatever your job is has a huge impact on how you date in Los Angeles. Because as a
Mm,
bartender, I like the majority of the people that I was going on dates with would be people that I met like at the bar that I worked at or at like a
right.
sister bar. So it's like, I'm meeting these people already drunk myself, they're drunk. And so it's like,
Right.
it's just a hard time to have a true connection. But I also, I think I discovered your work a little too late and I was not single on purpose. I was just like throwing my net, just out there wherever and
Right.
like seeing whatever happens. And it just a lot of times wouldn't end up well. Like I just have way too many stories of like being out with a guy and the whole first date is just like shots after shots and then just like throwing it all
Mm,
together like at the end of the night. So
right.
it's
Right.
like
Right. And
yeah.
did you get your heart broken a lot of times, or did you not so much even find love? It's just a lot of kind of like those kind of nights.
I honestly think I won't say that like I don't think that I got my heart broken. I think it was like a lot of the one of those nights, like, or I'd have one of those nights, and there were a couple times where I would like think that there could be some sort of connection, and then you go out with the person and without alcohol, and then you realize it's totally different.
Oh,
Um,
it's like the club
let
lights
me
come
just,
on. You're like, oh wait a minute.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I had this period too where I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna make this commitment to myself to not drink on the first date. And the very
Mhm.
first guy that I go out with, sober, we're like, let's go on a hike in Los Angeles. It's the thing everyone does. So
Right.
I'm like, cool, we're on a hike.
Yeah.
And this guy shows up 30 minutes late, first of all,
Mm.
and has this little like CVS chocolate box. And it's like, this is why I was late. I was getting you these chocolates, which I'm like, okay, I guess that's cute. It's going to melt this on this hike, but like, whatever.
Right.
And
It's a
so we
little too
start the
cute, but
hike.
okay.
Yeah, I was just like, I'd rather you were on time, but sure.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Um, my bar is already so low, like I'll take it. And so we're hiking, whatever. Not even 5 minutes into this hike, there's like a gate with like the sign that says like, no trespassing or whatever that a lot of the hikes have for some reason in
Right.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on, I have to do something. And he stops and pulls out a pen and starts vandalizing this sign. And
Oh,
I'm like, oh
jeez.
my God, this is 5 minutes. I was like, what are you doing? And there's like people
Yeah.
walking by staring. And I just so badly want to be like, I don't know this guy. Like, I just met him. And he's like, oh, I'm an artist. This is my tag. And I was just like,
Mm.
oh my God, this is so cringe. First sober date, keep
You're right.
walking. There's like so much more I could say about this specific guy. He like stopped in the middle to do push-ups. And I was just like, okay, we get it, dude.
Right.
Like,
Right.
this is I'm like, damn, I'm going to be drunk on the next date for sure. Like,
You
can't
know
do
what? You
this.
know what's
But
funny is like you. So in that story, you just encapsulated such an LA story, like And I don't know if it was Runyon Canyon because that's a famous hike here, but kind of hike on a date. Guy he's late. Everyone in LA is fucking late, which I hate. Um,
hmm
and also like, okay, if you're gonna get chocolates, don't go to CVS. Like, get some legit chocolates,
yeah.
man. Right? So like that in that way, like heavy on the veneer, the presentation, also sugar, right? And then pulling out a marker and pushing past boundaries, right? Vandalizing, that kind of stuff. So a lot of metaphor there, but a great visual of what dating in LA can be like. You just got to add some green juice and and also he's an influencer. Maybe that would also make it very LA.
God, I know. And it's funny because it's like LA is such a low key, tight knit community. And so it's like everywhere I go, I see his tag now. And it's just this
Oh,
like, it's so funny. I'm just like,
you
oh,
know what?
okay. Remember that one
It's
time?
now a reminder of what you don't want in your partner is
Yeah.
his tag everywhere, right? That's where how the universe is presenting his tag. Okay, so I know we're hopping around, which is cool. I love it. Grew up, no dad. Your relationship with mom strong or not so much?
Yes, yes, it is. It's obviously had its moments. So my parents
Sure.
divorced when I was 17, and I have a lot of respect for my mom, especially now being a single mother myself. I'm like, I can't even imagine what she went through. I mean, I can, but she kind
You
of
were
got the
there.
short end of the stick. Yeah, exactly. She got the short end of the stick in my parents' divorce, and
Mm,
as a kid, you just don't get it. You just are a kid focused on your own needs being met and angry at the world, a teenager angry at the hypocrisy of everyone around you. But our relationships definitely got a lot stronger since my son was born, and we both have been in therapy ourselves. So
nice. So
relationship with mom is good, but
was your therapy the catalyst for you wanting to become a therapist? Um how did you light that pilot fire for you?
it's funny. I think that I'm really rare in the sense that like I've always known I wanted to be a therapist. I
Mm,
had this vivid memory of a sixth grade like project where they were like, okay, you're all assigned this like job and then you have to research it, write a 2-page paper on it, which in sixth grade feels like, a
yeah,
dissertation,
two
like two
pages.
pages on this.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
insane. But my career, whatever I was assigned, was psychologist. And I had never heard the word before and like
Mm,
didn't know it was a thing. And I was like, oh my God, people get paid to hear about other people's like tea. Like you get the tea, you get the drama. Like that's like
mhm.
what I thought it was. I was like, oh my God, I want to hear people's gossip. And also just like growing up with a chronically stressed mother and an
Yeah.
absent father, like I've always been very keen on like picking up on other people's emotions and like mediating in a way, But
Would you
yeah, I
say
was
that
like, I definitely want to do that.
would you say you're an empath? Would you say that you like as far as people's energies, emotion, you're very sensitive to you pick up on that well?
I am, but I think it's like trauma. I think it's via trauma. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think that I'm
sure,
a
sure.
natural empath. I actually, even though like, I'm
Trauma
a
has wired you
Cancer,
that
so
way,
I'm
what you're
supposed
saying.
to be absolutely
Yeah,
because I also, don't I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of moments where I'm like, damn, I really misinterpreted that situation. But no, the things that I know because of trauma, I'm very keen at picking up on. I'm like, oh, I can definitely sense that you're angry right now or sense whatever.
what was some of the trauma that you went through in your life? Is it
I think,
physical abuse or sexual abuse or just life trauma or financial stress? What
well,
everything?
all of the above in a
I
way.
mean,
Well,
everyone has their
not
trauma.
so
Yeah,
much. Yeah. Well, growing up with a chronically stressed mother in and of
yeah,
itself, like I think that we underestimate how traumatic that can be on
yeah.
children, like having a really stressed parent or parents. Um, like I love my mom so much and she really did do her best to protect us from her emotional stress, I guess. But there's, nights where I remember just like
Sure.
crying, and it's like as a kid you don't know what's happening. But I
Wait, was
think
she a young
that
mom? Did she
combined
have
with
you at a young age?
No, but God, I don't know how much of this she wants out there, but I'm a firm believer in transparency, so it's like we'll just say it. But she
Your
had
mom doesn't
me
follow
when
me.
she
Don't
was
worry about it.
25.
Oh, she was
She
35.
had
Okay, got
me,
it.
yeah, and she was married to my
Yeah,
dad,
yeah, yeah. Got it.
but just like a little sneak peek into the relationship, like when she was pregnant with me and married, like my dad also like went back home to visit family and brought like a woman he was having an affair with to meet his whole family. And
Mm,
then like
yeah.
my mom found out about it that way when I'm about to be born in like a week. And that's just kind of like their relationship. You know, my dad was very much just like traveling all the time, cheating on my mom, like living his own life.
Well, and I apologize in advance for cutting you off. I'm horrible at that. I cut people off all the time. I don't mean to. Um, it's funny because I'm a therapist and I'm cutting people off. uh, Obviously, not a good therapist. So you actually experienced trauma before you were born because if your mom was going through that while she was pregnant, that was your housing. Like that was your, you felt that trauma, you felt the anxiety of your mom and the anger and all the feelings before you even came out into this world, which is crazy.
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
something like even in my own pregnancy, I experienced and like feel a lot of guilt over because it's like, I do think that, breaking a generational cycle is so damn hard. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
really
So
is.
hard. Because it's
And
baked in,
so
because
it's
it's
like,
wiring, because it's so much more than just making a decision.
yeah. And I think that, being a therapist in training and just like through my own, like, whatever reading and like discovering what my trauma is, like I feel a lot of guilt just like knowing what's happening. I'm like, dang, like I know that I'm instilling this trauma into my son like in the womb just from
Mm,
being so stressed out and like experiencing this. Like it's almost like a I wish I didn't know this, ignorance is bliss.
yeah,
Because I
yeah,
think like older generations or people who have never experienced trauma might just not think about it. It's like you're
sure.
so
I
focused
mean,
on your
yeah,
trauma, you don't know what's happening.
they didn't know, of course, and that's why it's like we can't really blame our parents because it's not. I mean, it wasn't intentional. I mean, they were in survival mode. There were, for at least for my generation, my parents self help and therapy that wasn't even a thing. I mean, my parents are old school Korean. Like they just just to pay the rent and buy pants. Like it was. I mean, therapy. What the fuck are you
Hmm.
talking about? So I think we are blessed and lucky, and I think you even being aware of it is going to change or stop the generational transmission process. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you just being aware of this
Right.
information is already a different track. You know?
No, absolutely. And it's like, I think, just with anything, like it takes time, like growth. And so just taking that small step, like I'm sure my son is going to have an even bigger step to take that'll just like, will slowly break this cycle. I can't just
Oh
full
yeah,
on end it with
yeah.
me.
So
Yeah.
after having your son, well, you had your son at how old?
He's 2.5. He was born like week 2 of the pandemic. So just
Oh
like,
wow, so he's almost
I
a
was
little bit
set.
younger than my daughter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
How old is your daughter?
she's a pandemic baby. She's almost 3. She's gonna be 3 in February. So he's just a few months
Awesome.
younger.
Yeah. Right, yeah, he was April 3rd. And so it's funny, I was actually so I worked my whole pregnancy. My mat leave was set to start the day before the bars shut down.
Mm,
Or or the day after, because the bar shut down right before my last shift that I worked at the
hmm.
bar. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess like everyone's going on maternity leave with me now. Like the whole bar is shutting down. Which worked out really good in my favor because I was so scared of having major FOMO, like with everyone getting to continue their life and me having
Yeah.
to leave and go be with a newborn.
But
But
wasn't the pandemic the perfect time to actually have a baby because no one's doing anything. It was for us. I mean, it just magically was the perfect time because everyone's at home. It's like, well, might as well raise a child. No one's doing anything anyway.
exactly, no, it really really worked out. And I'm really lucky in the sense that I was able to stay home for almost 2 years with my son because
Mm,
of the pandemic
nice.
and unemployment. And that was really great. And that's like a blessing that I just never ever could have anticipated. But in the same sense, I had a lot of postpartum anxiety, and
Mm,
I cannot stress enough how crazy that was in a global pandemic where on the news constantly it's just like the world is ending and like everything is crazy. And it
yeah.
just validates all of that anxiety. As a new mom, you already have like the rage or the depression or the anxiety or a mix of all three a lot of the time. And on top of that, the world is literally ending, and that's validated on the news.
Yeah. Um, I've already accepted that. I mean, I'm also 49. I'm swimming toward 50. So now I feel like I'm in the, with Carl Jung, he talks about the sun and the moon, and the sun being kind of the first half of your life, and then the moon being the second half. And so with the moon, I'm a lot more calm. I'm a lot more accepting. Um, it's not that I'm okay with the world ending, but I'm not, the raging, impatient, reactive person anymore. So um, I'm glad that this is happening in my moon years instead of my sun years, if that makes sense. But anyway,
Mm.
I'm making this about me. Okay, so did you have a revelation? Because I did that parenting is 10 times harder than you thought, or no? Was it? 'Cause for me,
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
holy shit! My respect for my parents and also single parents through the roof. Like I can't even explain.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I've never
Yeah.
heard a truer statement. And it not only was I shook about parenting in general, but it shook my whole idea of myself because
Mm,
I think I'm a chronic overestimator of myself, where
hmm.
I just am like, yeah, I could handle that. And my respect has gone through the roof. I thought that, you go out to a restaurant. This is what I always tell everyone when they're like, what is it like being a parent? I'm like, okay, you think that it's like, it's just a couple hard moments and then a ton of beautiful moments. And there are so many beautiful moments. Like, you'll go out to a restaurant and you see a parent with their kids, and the kid is quiet, right? They're sitting at the table, it's fine. And when you've never had kids, you're like, oh, see, it's not that bad. Like, look, they're still out at a restaurant, they're still enjoying their life.
Right, right.
And then now, as a parent being out at a restaurant with that kid, it's just like, yes, he's sitting here quietly right now, but I also have 10 million thoughts going through my head about what to do when he isn't, like what we're going to do when we get home. It took us an extra 30 minutes to get out the door because he took a shit
Hmm.
right in his
Hmm.
fresh diaper that I just changed him. And it's so much harder. It's so much harder. Like, cannot stress it enough.
Well,
It is the,
we're
well,
both
someone said
seeing
it's
how
the, yeah.
the movie's made.
Mm,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So we're
I love
like,
that.
oh, it actually, for one scene, it's a 12-hour day. And then there's a whole team involved, and it's this, and it's multiple takes, and it's all, and then instead of seeing the trailer or the magic of that scene. So like before having a kid, you're right. You see a kid like, oh, how cute he is. And, he's eating and all. It's like, oh, that it doesn't seem hard. And I want one of those and all that. But we're seeing the trailer. We're not seeing the behind the scenes of what really goes down.
Absolutely. And, I didn't have like no one, I didn't let my son be alone with anyone or like be watched by anyone because of my anxiety for a really long time. But the
Mm.
first time that I did let someone watch my son, he was about a year and a half, and my friend watched him overnight for me. And he was very
Oh,
familiar with her, but none of my friends have babies, LA can be a very babyless scene at times, but she watched him overnight, and totally the whole time I was like trying to prep her. I was like, it's gonna be a lot. Prepare yourself to maybe not sleep. This is his first whatever. And she's like, I got this. I swear to God, like 30 minutes into like his bedtime or whatever, she was like, this is insane. How do you do this? Like, he won't stop crying. Like, I'm asking him what he wants. He doesn't.
oh
I'm like, he's
yeah.
1.5. Yeah. And it fully changed her perception on kids because she had major baby fever going into that. And I was like, just
Mm.
wait. Like, it's fine.
Right.
You're going to see. Just rocked her world.
So were you a single parent from day one, or did you have a partner and then you became single?
I mean, this is something so important, I think, to talk about because so my child's biological father and I were not together when I got pregnant and have never
Mm.
been together in my child's life, but
Mm.
he is and has been involved at varying degrees at certain points. And
Hmm.
so calling myself a single parent at times it's felt like conflicting because there are so many single parents who have it worse in the sense that they have zero support. but I have had his biological father's varying support throughout my son's life. So even though we were never together, like my son knows his father and like sees
Mm,
him
nice.
fairly frequently. But I think even in like one of the groups that I ran on the circle this last week with the single parents, like there were several people in there who were like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I am a single parent. And it's
Right.
like, it's so sad that we like don't feel like we can say that just because we have a
Right.
little bit of support. But it's
Yeah.
like, no, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you're the one, like if you're the primary caretaker and like when shit hits the fan, it's just you, like you're a single parent. Like
Yeah.
I definitely think that people need to I don't know, be less gatekeepy of the title, you know?
I love that. I think you're right. I think you decide, right, if you are a single parent,
Yes.
and because the father or mother is, coming or helping once in a while, that you're still a single parent. I mean, you're doing most of the work. You're primary, for sure. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's like when you're the one in the middle of the night taking them to the ER and spending 7 hours, or you're the one like financially responsible, like all of it, like there's so many different ways to be a single parent.
Let me ask
So
you
many
this,
different ways.
because I think a lot of people listening who are single parents struggle with dating. And I know you're in LA, but how do you date as a parent? I mean, just to even have the time to go on a date, right? So, like,
Oh my God.
how do you date as a single parent? On top of grad school, on top of everything else you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you don't, or
Well,
do you?
it's funny. So I do have a partner,
Hmm.
and he is amazing and a father figure to my son. But I didn't date for a really long time. I, went through the whole drunken, chaotic dating mess for years. Got pregnant. Didn't date at all while I was pregnant because it was
Yeah.
just a little bit. It was either like too difficult, like people found out you were pregnant and it'd be weird, or people found out you're pregnant and really liked it, and then that would be weird. And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just not going to date pregnant. Didn't really date for the first like year of my son's life. I would have like a couple on off like lunch dates real quick where I
Mhm.
had a couple hours where my mom would have my son. But dating, I just got really lucky and met my partner through mutual friends,
Mm.
honestly. And we were
Yeah.
friends for a year while and didn't date while my son was just like growing up, and I was able to just kind of, I think, have more time to myself
Hmm.
slowly. And then I eventually went on a date with this guy as like a friend and then hit it off from there. And I'm really lucky and happy now. But it's so insanely hard to find the time. And not only that, like when I was able to find a couple hours, like the whole time I'm just like, is this someone that I would want to have around my son? And like I would have to
Mm.
have so many dates. It's just different from what I'm used to,
Oh yeah,
you
of
know?
course. Because it's not just about you; it's who you bring. It's like who you invest in is also going to impact your child. So yeah, it's a whole different. You put on you put them through a different strainer, a tighter strainer, most likely, right? So you
Oh
being
my
friends
God,
with
yeah.
him, you already had a foundation. You knew him as a person, right? Um,
Yeah.
is he in the room? Because I think did you look at him?
He's not. I keep pointing to him.
Oh, I
He's
was like,
sleeping in the bedroom right now, but
oh,
I'm
he's sleeping.
like
Okay. I was like,
just
is he right next to you?
yeah, I'm like
So
he's right here.
So then it wasn't like lightning in the bottle if you guys were friends, or was it? And then it was more of a slow burn. So it just went from friends to then romantic.
Yeah, no, it was, which was new for me because I had
Yeah.
always only had the like
Yeah.
intense
Locking eyes across
attraction
the
right
room, right?
away. Yeah. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, and it was my first time going out, really going out since like having my son. My son was like about a year old,
Yeah.
and it was like a friend's birthday party on a boat, and we all just got trashed on a boat in the harbor, and I was one of the cars, and he happened to carpool with me, my partner now. And so we met on the boat. I had offhanded mentioned that my birthday was coming up, and I was like, no one ever makes a big deal on my birthday, it's whatever, because he asked what I was doing. And we had the party, went home, didn't think much of it, and my boyfriend at the time, he got my address from our mutual friend and had cupcakes sent to my house on my birthday, just as like
Oh,
a little off. I know, and it was the sweetest thing. I just did not, I never
Hey,
experienced anything suitable.
why did the cupcakes land for you, but not the CVS chocolates?
I know, huh? Well, yeah, it was just the everything about it. I love
Yeah.
surprises. I love surprises. And
Yeah.
um, just like my partner now specifically, he is just the sweetest person. And
Mm,
everyone who knows him has a story about how he was kind to them or brightened their day. And it's one of the reasons that I eventually fell in love with him. But after the whole cupcake thing, we just like talked off and on, as friends. We both kind of dated other people. And then after about a year of being friends, he just asked me, he was like, hey, like, what if we just went on a date, like went on a real date? And I was like, okay,
mm.
like, let's see how that goes. And we've kind of, for the most part, been inseparable since.
I love that story. And what I'm hearing from you is it was because you say kind and he was so sweet, which can also equal safety as well. Uh,
Mhm.
that's kind of what won you over, it sounds like, right? And it's funny that the
Yeah.
cupcake, sugar, kind, sweet, thoughtful, and these are probably
Mhm.
characteristics that you want for your child to be around, and that's probably why it was important to you.
Absolutely. And I think, being friends for a year really helped, obviously, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
trusted him in a way that like I
yeah.
could never trust a stranger. But it's funny you brought up safety because one of the things that I told him, like the night that I told him I loved him, like what I said was like, I've never felt safety and
Mm.
attraction in the same space before. Like he's the first person who
Oh,
I felt
interesting.
safe and attracted to. Um, a lot of that is like the safety was built over a year as friends. But it feels really nice and really healthy. And it's the cliche where it's like, when you know. And it had always been
Yeah,
relationships before. I'd always had like the intense attraction, the passion, and like the constant fighting.
sure, sure.
And that was just what I thought love was. I was like, love is work. You're supposed to fight for it. And none of the cliches, like when really clicked with any of my other relationships. And I thought, oh, that's fantasy. That's like, that doesn't exist, which in a way it can be. And I think that can be true for some people. But just in my experience, I just knew once we started dating, I was like, this is healthy. This is where I'm supposed to be in this relationship.
Hey, you said something we have to talk about. You
Oh
said
no.
I've
What?
never. Huh? You
I
said,
said, oh no.
oh, um, you said I've never experienced safety and attraction. And to me, that's such a powerful statement. I think many can relate to that. Um, so that means that you've only either experienced something safe, but there was no attraction, right? It was quote unquote boring, no chemistry, or you
Mhm.
felt attraction and it was hot and all that, but it wasn't safe. And so this is actually a great meter or radar to ask yourself when you're dating. Um, I need to find something that has both. And I think what's going to be hard is a lot of people who are used to growing up in chaos. They're going to find attraction and they're not going to find safety. They're going to find safety, but they're not going to be that attracted. But I think if you swim past that, if you sit with it, you could kind of rewire yourself by giving yourself a new love experience, which then get you to actually then gravitate toward, like you could actually then be attracted to someone that you feel safe with. And I think that's ultimately the goal, right?
Absolutely. And I could not agree more because especially with the swim past, I think that the mistakes I made in my relationships before this one is I thought that I could swim past the not feeling safe and that over a period of time I would start feeling safe with this person. But I think that the
Yeah.
safety is like the most important thing to feel initially. And then attraction is a lot easier to build than
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah. And most people, I got to say, especially younger people in their 20s and stuff, and I was one of them, I put attraction first, right? So
Yeah. Oh,
um,
absolutely.
safety's extra. Safety's like the is cruise control or the sunroof. The engine is attraction, right? That, and then of course, as you get older and you go through all these chaotic relationships, you shift and you say, okay, now I want something safe as the base model, and then attraction, of course, is important, but that's going to be built or fanned and all that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about the stripping. How did you get into
Yes,
it?
yes,
What
yes,
is that
yes.
like? Yeah, and also, what is that like as a therapist who's in training and also doing that? Like I feel like there's a possibility you kind of feel like you're living two lives. I don't know. What's it like?
Totally, totally. Well, it's funny because I always joke that I'm already a practicing therapist at the club
Oh,
because it's
sure.
not that
Yeah.
different, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of the men do come in for therapy, basically. But I got into it. I actually went into the club that I work at now. I went in to see if they were hiring bartenders
Mm.
because my son was just about to be 2 and I was ready to enter the workforce because unemployment ran out and I had to. So I was like, I need to find something that is kind of flexible, but I can make a lot of money in a short amount of time. And I'd always bartended. So I was like, I'm going to try bartending in a strip club. I went in, interviewed with the manager, and he was like, I'll be honest, we're not hiring bartenders, but we are hiring strippers. Do you dance?
Mm.
And I was like, well, I put a poll up in my room during the pandemic, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And
Right.
he was like, well, you can come in and just try it. And so I went home, thought about it for like a month, and stripping has always been something, at least for me, that it's like in the back of my mind, been, well, if this doesn't work out, I can just be a stripper and
Mm-hmm.
make a ton of money, because there's all these
Mm-hmm.
preconceptions about stripping where it's easy and you'll just go and make a bunch of money for being
Right.
hot.
Right.
And so I just thought to myself, why not try it? Like, I'm not getting any younger. I might as well just go for it. So I went, I auditioned, they hired me. And now I was like, oh shit. Okay. Now
Wait,
I
what
gotta
did
do
the
this.
audition? How did they? Was it like Flashdance? What's the audition? And by the way, you're young. You're like Flashdance. What the fuck are you talking about? Maybe
Oh my God.
you're like the was the audition like people behind tables and they're like, okay, dance. Let's see what you can do, or what was the audition process?
No, but it's funny. I showed up and I'd read a bunch of Reddit threads before going because I was like,
Mm.
this will help. I'll know everything I need to know. But you show up, you have an outfit to change into. They put you back in the locker room, change into your little bikini, and walk out onto the stage. And they're just like, okay, go ahead, go up. But everything I read on Reddit said that I was going to be able to pick my own songs
Oh,
and
right.
that I had to
Right.
have a routine. So I like practiced for like a week this
Oh no.
routine, and I
Yeah.
had 2 specific songs that I practiced the routine to. And then I
Right.
show up, and the manager's just like, change, go up there, 2 songs. And
They put on they
just
put on Gangnam
what
Style, and you're like,
yeah, I know, huh? And I'm just sweating, like it's the
yeah.
scariest thing I've ever done. But I got on stage for the first song. You just have to, do your little thing. And the second song, he was like, just take your top off. And I was like, okay, which is crazy. The whole thing is just, it is a
Yeah.
crazy thing. But so I get on stage, I do my little dance. Someone actually came over to the stage during my audition and like slid $2 over. And that was like, I was like, oh, I'm doing good. This is going well, this interview. And I just step off stage and the manager is like, you're hired, come back tomorrow with your social security card. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. The
Let
interview
me ask you
process
this:
though is so funny.
Is it so you get the audition, but your first time on stage with real fans, patrons watching you, what was that like? Was that an empowering process, or is it like I can imagine like like I can imagine stand-up comedy where it's terrifying, and then once you get the first laugh, then it's fun and easy, and you could actually hit kind of flow states. What is it like going on stage for the first time with real people, not an audition, but like a real, your first time dancing?
It's definitely empowering, and stripping as a whole overall has been like really empowering.
Yeah.
But even in that audition, like I still have those $2 that customer slid me for the audition,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that it's such a brave thing to do as a woman,
Yeah.
because it's something that you could think about for years, but actually getting up there and doing it requires so much it's unknown, you know, it requires courage. And
Yeah.
that in itself, just the fact that I went up there and did something that I was really scared to do. Like, I by no means have been like, my whole life, I don't consider myself an entertainer. I'm not necessarily someone who loves the spotlight,
Yeah.
but just like walking on a stage was something that I was really proud of. And that in itself is empowering. It's also, being a stripper, you have a lot of the power. It has actually, like we were talking about earlier, the
Right.
whole fuck men attitude, it has changed that for me in a really surprising way. Like, I thought that this job was going to reinforce that. Like, I would just like really
Right.
be like extra fuck men. But having the power, just like control over my body, control over the stage, has totally changed my perception on a lot of things,
I
a
think
lot of
it's really
definitions of gender as
interesting
well.
that that has become therapeutic for you, you know? So like obviously the with the stage it's safe. There's, you know, bouncers, it's not chaotic, and you do have control. It's your song, it's your routine. You decide, you know, how the show goes. And so in a way, creating that safety for yourself and then allowing yourself to express yourself through dance in front of men, and also kind of being vulnerable in front of men, and then also feeling safe, is actually giving yourself a new imprint, kind of.
Definitely. And it's not what I expected, you know. I thought it was going to be a lot of scary moments, or a lot of something about being I've been sexualized my whole life as a woman, as we all are, you know,
Yeah.
but now I'm getting paid for it. And I
Hmm.
think that that's an
Sure.
empowering thing, where I have control over the customers that I talk to. Like you said, there's bouncers, so I have control over, you know, who gets to do what, basically, while I'm on stage or while I'm in a room with a customer. And that's way more empowering than being out in public and being catcalled and like not being able to do anything about
Yes.
that.
Yes. Right. And also I think with that there's a disrespect if people are pushing your boundaries on the street as opposed to dancing and, you know, entertainment and all of that, you know.
Right. And like within itself, it's kind of its own little bubble. Like, there's stripper etiquette and there's customer etiquette. So there's
Sure.
definitely still ways that the customers disrespect us, or even like
Yeah, of course.
other dancers at times, you know, like can step on each other's toes. But
Um, the mad scientist in me, because if you know my story, I was like a therapist, I went rogue and, you know, started working unconventional ways, is saying, how can we combine you as a therapist and also empower, you know, you as a stripper? And I'm like, oh, okay, so with your clients who have been through sexualization or something in the past, you could give them the experience of putting them on stage.
that, yeah, that actually is a really, that's interesting. You know, I know that there's some clubs that do amateur nights where you
Yeah.
can just get on stage
Yeah.
as like a customer, which is something I never would have thought that I'd recommend to a client. But now that you're mentioning it, I'm like, you know what, that could honestly be very
I
empowering
mean,
for a
it
client,
can also go
especially,
sideways. It's very,
right?
it's just me
Yeah.
being, you know, it's just me being me, but I'm, you know, also kind of half joking, but yeah, that's always where my mind goes is out of the norm, you know, calling outside the lines, all of that, the mad scientist. But anyway, hey, listen, I want to say thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being a part of my private community. Um, I think your story is gold, and I love that you are showing up now, empowering other people and holding a safe space for others, right? So not only as a single parent, but also standing on the fact that, yeah, you're a stripper, you're a single parent. I think, are you also a writer? Because it seems like you're also a writer, no?
Well, see, I'm like, don't talk about it. I'm like so scared to say that, but yeah, I do want to write. I want to write
Yeah.
eventually, but you know, do I actually sit down and take the time as much as I should? No, but I eventually want to write a book. I mainly because I mean, I appreciate this space, like being able to share my story, because I think that we need more stories
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
people who can be a stripper and you can be sexually open and like sexually dominant or sexually awakened, whatever you want to call it, and also a professional as a therapist, and also a
Yeah.
mom, and
Yeah.
a good mom still.
So
So I'd like to write about that.
I gravitated toward your story because I remember when I was becoming a therapist, it was all mostly white women in their 30s. I was a Korean man going through a divorce. I felt like the black sheep. And yeah, you could be a therapist and be going through a divorce and broke and rebuilding your life and you know, drinking coffee out of styrofoam and you know, it was just, you know, going on walks and not having friends. Like, so I don't know. I relate to people with stories where, yeah, you want to help other people, but you're also doing, wearing other hats, and there's also other parts of you, right? So you're not a cardboard cutout. And I think that's where the power is, you know, in kind of like breaking anything that society holds as quote unquote normal or should, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's not even like we exist, you know, people out here like this just don't typically like talk about it. And I, in a way, like get it because personally, I'm really protective over my private information when I'm at the club. And it's like the more I've danced, the more I get a little bit loose with my information. But I think that it can hold people back from sharing their story, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, I think you have to be safe. But I love that you're sharing your story. So thank you for doing it here. And where can people find you? I mean, don't give out your home address.
Yeah.
Where
Like,
can
come on
people
over.
find you?
Right. So I am on the circle on your platform.
Yep,
I
yep.
am also on Instagram at bananas_foster_. And that is the extent of that for now.
Cool. You could meet Breanna in person by jumping into one of her groups in my private community. Follow her on Instagram because I'm going to push her to start sharing her story on Instagram. And also her writing. I'm going to push her to write more. Hey, did you know? Did you know? Because I never read anything you've written. I went by one sentence, and I kind of thought, you know what? She's a writer. I went by one sentence, and that sentence was what's on your profile on your Instagram, and it says
Oh
something.
my gosh.
It says something about a sharp pencil or something, right? Or point or
Yeah,
something.
stab self with pencil to prove point.
Yes. So just by that one sentence, she's a writer. I could tell. So
Well, thank
anyway,
you. That means a lot. Yeah.
I encourage you to write. I encourage you to write your story. I mean, that's amazing. I think anything you can do to help other people is going to be such a gift to this world. So the new single parent therapist and stripper, Breanna, thank you for hanging out with me, and thank you for being a part of this community.
Thank you so much for the platform.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you can just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to the Single on Purpose private community online. It's off of social media, no ads, no algorithms. We got forums, we got live groups, we got webinars, and we have social hangs. We also have offline in-person hangs happening soon. So check us out. Go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life, and I will see you inside.